Not to be the bearer of bad news, but it looks like we're about to embark on another regime change war like next week. There's so much going on right now in this country that you may not be aware that there is a U.S. naval armada steaming toward Venezuela, which is a large oil-rich country in South America, not too far from here, actually. And the purpose, the stated purpose of this show of military force is to force the leader of that country, Nicolas Maduro, to leave. And the threat is, unless he leaves, vacates the premises, gives up his job, turns over the reins to the opposition party, splits Venezuela for good, the United States will go to war with Venezuela, invade it even. Kind of a big deal. You may not even have known that. Very few people seem to be talking about that. Again, there's a lot else going on, but it's a pretty significant turn of events if you think about it. It's not every day the United States has another regime change war. In fact, it's been quite some time. We had a narrowly averted regime change war back in June with Iran. They were telling you the point was just to stop its nuclear program. Of course, the point was to change the leadership in Tehran. President Trump pulled back. That didn't happen, thank God. But we are on the cusp of something very similar happening not too far from here, and an awful lot could go wrong. And yes, we're fully aware that anyone who points out the potential downside possibilities of a war is not only a wuss, but unpatriotic, hysterical. The fact that Caracas, Venezuela, the capital, by the way, you'll be hearing a lot more about it if we go to war there. Caracas, Venezuela, the main population center and capital of Venezuela, is about 475 miles by sea from San Juan, Puerto Rico, the American protectorate. So really from our country. It's pretty darn close, super close. And that's significant not because Venezuela's SEAL teams are going to blow up Puerto Rico, but because wars tend to precipitate huge movements of people. They cause migrant crises. They cause massive and irreversible demographic change. This has always been true, but we have a couple of pretty recent reminders. Back in 2015, with the help of the U.S. government at the urging of our closest ally in the Middle East, the Syrian civil war raged, and there were lots of players in that war, but the United States was certainly one of them. And as the result of the Syrian civil war, which most Americans were not paying attention to, Europe got invaded by migrants. You remember the migrant crisis of 2015? You may not remember because it never ended. In the 10 years since that, 1.3 million-ish asylum seekers arrived in Western Europe. Western Europe has been completely destroyed, totally unrecognizable. That's not an overstatement. Go to Paris, go to London, go to Oslo. Go to any capital in Western Europe, and it does not look Western European, and clearly that entire part of the continent is on the dramatic downswing. There are a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason is immigration, mass migration due to war. So that's not a hysterical position. It's not crazy to worry about that, considering we're pretty close to Venezuela. So that could happen. Also, people get killed in war. Whenever you commit troops to a place, even if you bomb a place, there are after effects, there are ripples, and people die, and some of those people are apt to be your people. So if you have a war, it's fair to expect some Americans will die. And of course, we've had a lot of wars in the last 100 years, and Americans have been prepared to bear that cost. Not usually the same Americans starting the wars or cheering on the wars. They never bear that cost because they never show up at the war. People like Lindsey Graham haven't been to a lot of wars. But most Americans are aware of the fact that when you have a war, people die, including some of our guys. It's sad, but we tell ourselves it's worth the cost. But it's close to inevitable. All of that is just to say, before this happens, it would be nice to know why we're doing this. Why are we having a regime change war? And by the way, unlike what happened in June, the people pushing this are just saying it right out loud. The purpose of this adventure is to replace the government of Venezuela.